Mo, what's up, bud? Good to see you.
Yeah, just here, enjoying, what is it, December 17th?
I think so, is it?
Yeah. Week before Christmas, hanging out with
18th.
you. Yeah.
18th.
Oh, wow. All right.
18th,
So,
yeah.
right before Christmas, hanging out with you. Couldn't be better.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's get right to it. Tell me about yourself, Mo. Where'd you come from? Like, where'd you grow up?
Oh, where'd I grow up?
Yeah.
So I was born in Queens,
Okay.
raised in Nassau. I've been
What part of Queens?
Bayside, right off 35th Ave.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you go to school there? Or?
No, I went to Notre Dame in New Hyde Park, Catholic school. Then I went to Holy Trinity in Hicksville.
Okay.
And St. John's. So
Graduate?
Catholic school, no.
You didn't graduate?
No. So 2 years there, a year in LIU, and then straight into real estate. At 23.
How'd you get into the real estate business?
Oof. So family in real estate, both investments, development. Let me clear it. And then family in mortgages. So I grew up with my mother being in mortgage banking, and
Okay.
I saw how terribly boring it was to be behind the desk with numbers and paperwork in front of you all the time.
Did you start off in the mortgage world? Or no.
No. So I actually had a small business. I owned a small restaurant when I was very young. Learned how to run a business from there by doing
What kind of
it
restaurant?
poorly. It was a Subway franchise.
Oh.
So I had that in 2011. I ran that very, very poorly for all intents and purposes. But I learned my chops, what you have to do to kind of run a business, speak to people, vendors there.
Let me ask you something. How do you run a franchise? That's a franchise, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you run that poorly?
So you don't follow the systems and models, right? Basically, just like every franchise, like Keller Williams, they give you the formula, and you just have to kind of execute it. And when you veer away from what they've put in front of you, you end up with results that are less than promising, and your business starts to go under. So, in the restaurant world, if you don't follow the way they prepare the food, right? In the Subway, it'd be the sandwich and the vegetables and the meats and prep everything the right way. Your quality suffers, so.
What would make you not follow if you bought that model? And that's what I say to everybody that comes into a Keller. It's the same thing. The ones that don't make it, the ones that I end up taking over, usually they veered off the model for some reason.
Yeah.
And then they like to blame the model that it didn't work. And then all I do is come in and I just run the model the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And what I tell people, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody, if you know how to read, you can run a franchise.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Absolutely.
all you're doing is following direction. So, but why would you buy a franchise? And I'm not here to bash your restaurant career, but why would you buy a franchise if you weren't going to follow the rule of thumb?
Yeah.
And just follow, these are the cucumbers you're going to buy, these are the peppers you're going to buy, this is the turkey meat, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And again, it's not the best turkey, but it's not the worst. And it's going to make the sandwich, it's going to make the profit. This is how
Exactly.
much you put on that. Why would you veer off of that in a franchise model?
So it's two things, right? In all business, especially when you are an entrepreneur in your mind, there's a bit of an ego there that you think you can do something a little bit better, even if it's laid out perfectly in front of you, right? Time and time again, it's been proven that it works. You think you're going to come in and somehow change the wheel to make it better, right? And I think that's something that you get in your own way, right? I'm going to cut cost here and make my business more profitable sooner, right? I'm going to jump a couple of years ahead in the business model, right? And get to where I want to get to without following the right track. And
Wow. How long did it take you to figure, hey, I screwed up here, I should have stayed with the model?
honestly, when the business was bleeding cash and I was putting bad money behind bad money to try to keep it alive, I started realizing a little too late the error in my ways.
So here's what I'm curious, right? Were you putting bad money and still doing it your way, or did you go back to the franchise way with bad money now at that point? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
now you ran it bad for 6 months or whatever it is, and now you're chasing the bad money now, but at least you go back to the franchise money, or did you still think in your mind that, hey, I'm going to still do it this way?
Well, so I went right to the manual, right? They give you a book. It's as thick as an encyclopedia. And as soon as it got real bad, then I went to the basics and I started reading from the beginning. And to an extent, I was able to build back up, right? Because when we did end up ultimately selling the business, it wasn't at the bare minimum that it could have been. It wasn't a distress sale like you would put in real estate terms.
Now, does Subway come back in and buy them, or you have to
There's
sell
another person. Another person steps up and says, like, I'll
So
reamp
same thing
this.
at our
Yeah, exactly.
But they have I'm assuming Subway has the first right of refusal.
Yeah, absolutely. But they have a whole bunch of people who are going through the franchisee training process who are waiting for this was in Queens on Northern Boulevard. You know what I mean?
Really?
It was a prime location. So there was a line of
Oh,
people.
so you had the one in Bayside on?
No, I had the one in Little Neck before the big McDonald's
Oh,
with the
yeah,
play
yeah,
place
yeah.
right there.
Okay.
So,
It's interesting.
but yeah, there was a line of people waiting. And
I've eaten in there a few times.
there you go. If it was between 2009 and 2011, I would have been the one behind the counter.
Oh, wow.
Making the sandwich. So, no, but there is this aha moment where you're like, I screwed up because I didn't follow the model that's in front of me. And luckily for me, and I think this is where it translated well into real estate, I was able to pivot and do the right thing with enough time to spare that I was still able to make it somewhat profitable heading out. You know?
So it's. I just want to stay on this for one more second because I want to try to understand this. So when you bought the Subway model, same. I'm assuming. I don't know if you ever went through FSO. For us, we were literally just talking about this for dates on it. And what I'm talking about is franchise systems orientation. It's to learn about how to start a KW, what KW is about. Did they have something similar to that in Subway? Where is it located? Where is it? New York? Is it
Subway University? It's in Connecticut.
Okay, so it's not
Their
that far.
tagline is "Let us teach you," like lettuce.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
It's I like.
I
that.
did that laugh like, ha,
Yeah,
that was a great laugh.
Yeah, really hamming it up for the cabs, right?
That's right.
No, but yeah, and it was like 3 weeks of training. At the end, you got to meet Fred DeLuca, who is the founder of Subway, which was pretty coul. We had dinner with him, and even
You have sandwiches? Or
it was like the sandwiches. He was like, you take a turkey sub or a combo sub, and I was like, I get a steak, No, but
Lobster.
and that whole thing was him speaking to us about franchising and how you'd have to try to fail. And I was sitting there. Again, I'm 20. You have to remember that.
Your
also.
baby still, yeah.
Yeah, I'm 20 years old. I have no experience. I'm
Know
trying
it all,
to do
though.
this. Yeah, exactly. I'm very, very egotistical at the state, and I'm listening to everything he's saying, and I'm buying into it. And then the minute he leaves, I start messing with the formula for some reason, right? Again, trying to make it better, and I think
And all you were doing was trying to make it fail.
Yeah,
When you really look at it a different way by doing. And he told you that. I'm pretty sure that if you mess around with this, you're gonna fail,
Yeah.
but you still think in your mind that it's.
I remember to this day he said exactly that.
Wow.
He said, if you try to customize this to your own thoughts, it's just not going to work because we have a system that works in 109 different countries at the time with hundreds and thousands of locations. You'd have to try to mess this up. And then I know we'll get into this, but now as a coach, right, as a real estate coach, I have to kind of convey the same message, right? The tools and the models and the systems are there for you, especially KW, where it's all kind of like, here are the activities, do these, and you will reach your goals. You'd have to try to sabotage your own business at that point.
And that's what people do. So I never knew that about you. And I know you a long time, and I've never known that about you. I'm surprised I didn't know that because I try to learn from everybody I meet what their world was about. You know me. I ask a lot of questions because I want to get to know the people I'm in business with. And even if I'm not, I want to get to know people because I think people are interesting. You really do learn some crazy shit about people once you start asking questions. And I never knew that you were into that. I thought you just went from college. I know Mom was very successful in the mortgage world and in the banking world. And I found out, a while ago that Jeannie went to school with your mom and how the world's basically intertwined and everything like that. It's pretty interesting, right? So I guess if you had to say you had a do-over, would you do it differently or would you do it the same way because of where you are today? So knowing what you're doing today.
So a well-phrased question.
Excuse me.
I think I would do it differently.
You would?
Yes, I would. I'm very, very happy and content with where my business has taken me. Because again, real estate I've been in for going on 12 years in May. But there is an opportunity to going back and being able to fix something. The reason you don't know about this, you've had countless conversations. You coached me when I came in to Keller Williams, and the reason it's because I'm a human being, and to me that was a low point in my business story, so I didn't share it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And now that I'm at a place where I've learned from that, I've failed forward from that moment. I speak about it more openly because it's something that I needed. I think that was my business school. You know what I mean? where
So,
I got trial
but
and error.
with that being said, and that's why I asked, and I know you gave me your answer, and I'm not
Yeah.
trying to get it different, but anything in my life, and I'm not trying to compare anything and I failed a lot.
Yep.
I don't think it's failing until you give up, and you obviously didn't give up. You're still here. You did another business with the coaching world and the real estate business. Being 20 and having the stones to go out there and do something the way you did it, right? And probably not money is not an issue. You probably went in, had a little help, and that's great. You go in, you take your lumps, and now you come into it. I think something more importantly came out of that, that you're just not meant to be in the restaurant business,
Yeah.
right? And this is what your real calling. So now you leave that. How long are you doing that for?
2.5 years.
So 2.5 years you're doing that. You sell the place. Hopefully you didn't get killed. Hopefully you didn't take a bath. Hopefully you made your money back. And hopefully the guy that bought it ran the model the right way and it's successful. And I think it's still open, that place, right? And it's still a Subway, if I'm not mistaken, right? So he has to do something right.
Exactly.
And I guess in some strange way, you have to be proud that was your location and you were I guess you were the founder of that, right?
I show my boys. I drive by it and they're, 4 and 3 and they don't even know what I'm saying. I'm like, that used to be my store. You know what I mean?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like a fun little part of my story that I get to tell my kids.
So I don't know if you know this. I owned a deli too back in the day.
Oh, yeah. I
Not
didn't know
a
that.
Subway. It was a regular deli. And I did it when I retired after I got rid of the security company and I jumped into the deli world. And similar to you, I was a little different, though. I didn't buy a Subway. I went in, opened up a deli, and I was I loved the movie Wall Street. I don't know if you remember that with Charlie Sheen and what's his name?
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas, thank you. And I like I learned that in that movie that you buy shit that's failing and you turn it around.
Yeah.
And the first thing I did it with was a deli. So I would go in and I would buy these small companies and go in there and mingle with the customers and talk to them, even though I didn't know how to slice ham. The freaking slices were coming out this thick on your sandwich. But I had the personality, so the people, I guess, liked me, and they kept coming back because I was able to tell them funny stories and joke around and mingle with the customers and, lines out the door because they want to come and hang out. And then I just flipped it and sold it, and I kept doing that. And then it's funny, when I got into Keller, I was doing the same thing. I think I told you this story when Karen came to me and all the crap that was going on when I took over Keller. I wasn't staying, obviously. I was going somewhere else. And I said, this is the opportunity to buy something, turn it around, flip it, make a couple bucks, and move on. It's sort of like flipping houses that I'm sure we all did. And I realized in this world, the product isn't a ham sandwich. The product isn't, vegetables. The products are human lives.
Yeah.
And in our world, what we're selling is, believe it or not, it's the people that you're partners with, your world, the agents. And what I learned really quickly is that you care about these people.
Yeah.
And they grow on you. You have real conversations with people when I took it over, I wanted to make sure that I had real conversations with my people, the leaders, the coaches, the TLs and everyone like that, the agents, the top agents, the smaller agents, the new agents coming in. I always wanted it to feel like a home. And we were here to help each other. And with that, I would, not try to tell you what to do, just guide you in the right direction so you didn't make the same mistakes that I made. And then I realized that, they have to make the same mistakes because they're never going to learn if they don't. And then you got to painfully sit back and watch them make these mistakes. And you could have probably prevented it, but you can't. So the reason I'm telling you that is because we do something very similar. You just do it in a different way. You're coaching people, and you're coaching these young lives to come in. And what I mean by young lives is individuals that are putting their trust into you that you're gonna take it to the next level.
Absolutely.
So what made you get to that mindset that you can do it? Like, okay, again, 2.5 years, come into the real estate world. Take me from that before we get into the coaching.
Yeah.
What did you do? Did you mingle with mortgages? And I keep going back on that because that's where your family is from, and that's where your family is known from. Did you mingle with the mortgages?
I'm gonna go back a little bit,
Please.
Right. Okay. So kind of what you said. So this store that I bought was failing, right? I got it for pennies on the dollar from this guy. It was his third store.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah, he had given up on this one. He had other locations that were very profitable. So I got it for a very good price. And that's actually why, even though, in my mind, again, I'm a little bit self-critical here. Like if you looked at the journey, it wasn't, it was good because it was profitable.
Sure.
It just wasn't something to write home about. Like, hey, guess what I did here?
I didn't make
right.
millions
Yeah,
of
but like he
dollars
was,
on this.
again, I still know him. We're still friends. He was selling like 107 sandwiches a week. I don't know if you know how, that's kind of like a metric that you track. And by the time we left, we were selling about 320.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah. So it was, but we did a lot of platters. Here's where real estate comes in. I started knowing that my mother, her loan officers were hosting open houses every weekend. I started going to them and saying, let me put a spread out for your open house. Right? I'll bring the sandwiches. I'll set it up real nice. I'll throw in some cookies. People love Subway cookies. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like really do that. And in that time period where I was going to set up open houses for other agents and top agents, the circles that my mom runs in,
Sure.
some of these agents are high producing agents. I was like watching them almost operate. And something again, it sounds weird, but yeah, like in my mind, I was like, this is something that I can do, and I could probably do it well. I'm not a people person, this about me, but it's for me something I can turn on when it comes to something I
think me and you are a lot alike. I don't think I'm a people person either.
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable in the backside, hanging out in the room, sort of like
That's why we got along, yeah.
Yeah. I'll come out with it, and I think we're a lot alike. So you get into that world.
Yeah.
Where's the first position that you take?
So I'm at a mom and pop in Great Neck, and I am the assistant to a top producing agent. 40 plus million in volume year over year from 2009 to 2012, and that's when I joined her.
Awesome. So join that. How long are you there?
I am there also 2.5 years, like
Interesting.
just shy of 2.5 years. I guess that's my kind of turnover time when I start being like, I need something else, So
2.5 years you're there, and then where do you go from there?
So from there, I joined Keller.
Okay. Great Neck.
Yeah, Gold Coast in Manhasset.
Yep.
Yeah, and then
Manhasset. I'm sorry.
yeah, and I'm, I joined that team, and that's actually a funny story too, because when I was on this top agents team, the mindset was let's grow this, let's have buyers agents and have an admin and a showing,
And this is outside of Keller.
outside of Keller,
Which is interesting because we were the first ones to really do that.
But this is the mindset of growth that most agents, when they get to a certain level of production, they do it out of necessity. I need somebody to schedule my day. I need somebody to do my transaction coordination, and I need somebody running around my buyers while I become, quote unquote, a rainmaker. But me being the assistant on the team, it was my job to go out and find the people and create the models and systems, right? I ended up having to sit at a 3-hour inspection in Great Neck for one of these old houses built in like 1885, right? 3 floors, huge, with the Keller agent. And we're sitting there and we're talking Keller Williams. And we're talking the MREA book and budget model, organization model, lead gen model, all stuff that I'm trying to
learn about.
Yeah, learn and teach myself, after work, right? Because I'm also, when you work with somebody who does the kind of production that she was doing, you're busy from 7:45 in the morning until 8 p.m. So anything I'm doing outside of that, right, after 8 o'clock, I'm sitting almost in the middle of the night trying to figure out how to create a team. Meanwhile, there's a blueprint out there. And 5 miles away from the office I was working at was a Keller Williams office where people were replicating a team structure, or trying to, over and over again. And again, there was a franchise. I didn't need to reinvent the wheel. There was a model and system that I could just follow.
And it's so interesting because they came out of the gate, that Keller, so hot. Right?
Yeah.
That model came out, and that office was doing damage.
Absolutely.
They were doing damage when they first started, which, and they still are, obviously. But they came in because nobody knew anything about it.
Yeah.
And you came in. So now you get over there and you're working with them. You started with Andy, or?
Yeah. So Andy brought me in, and then I brought my partner, and then, we
Andy knew mom, or
no,
how did that work?
no. So I mean,
I know you were talking to that other agent.
Yeah.
Was that the agent you were talking to? Was Andy or no?
Yeah, Andy was the one.
Andy.
So yeah, we were at the inspection together, and she really right away was like, "You have such great ideas, but I don't want to burst your bubble. They've already been created, and more in depth than where you are, there is a manual in the form of the MREA." And she kind of told me, and at that time,
And she
again,
has a way of telling you too.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly. She just kind of, and I went home and I started reading right away, like flipping through the pages. I was one of those like where, I can't anymore, but like I could tell you what was on what page of the MREA book just because I had gone through it
so much.
and I wanted to ingest as much of it as possible because
Of course,
I had to find a way because finding out how to run a team opened up my freedom again because I was, committing so much of my time and energy to trying to figure out how to make the perfect team for somebody else. And again, for me, it was a huge learning curve. And Andy, you know how she is. She is Keller Williams through and through. She was at every seminar. She had invited me to different seminars that Keller Williams was hosting. I had taken an Ignite session before I ever joined Keller. I had gone to a Keller Williams holiday party that before I was even a Keller agent. Just kind of like getting to know the culture and the community of Keller Williams. And that was, almost a decade ago.
Wow,
Right? It'll be 10 years.
So now you come into my world, and we could argue about this. I stole you from them.
Exactly.
We know the true story. I stole you.
Yeah.
I can say it now because we own it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but all joking aside, we came and, and again, at least I think I did it the right way. We sent you back and all of that good stuff. And you come into our world next, and you leave that world to come over to us. What was your thought process there? Because I always find that amazing too. You see this a lot, and I did it myself. Where Keller's the only company when you leave Keller, you end up going to another Keller, right? Does that make sense? And you see that all over. So I left Bayside and then went to Greater Nassau. You did it, and you can name so many different names, and people in our world went there. That's how great the model is. The model is the model, and you could follow it and you can make a lot of money, or you cannot follow it and do okay or whatever. I don't want to knock anybody else's ideas, but it's the blueprint. This is our world. This is our model. So let's just work with it. You get into this. You're now in my world, and you decide let's be a coach. Yeah. Take me through that process.
All right. So, going back to how I came into your world, I was at Gold Coast, and I was doing well. We were, having a good year, but coming from where I came from and having this franchise experience, I started seeing certain cracks in the foundation of the models maybe not being followed because, things were growing exponentially for certain people, in the market center. And I was looking for something that was on the track of Keller Williams, right? The Keller track that, I had read about time and time again in this book was a very clear-cut system of how to do it and what to do. And so that kind of brought us together. And when I sat and spoke to you, I don't even know if you remember this, but
I do.
Came to your office. You had your big whiteboard like you do. You had a dry erase marker. You threw one because it was dry, so I knew you used it, right? You threw one across the room. It was and you started mapping it out, and you asked me questions, right? You didn't pitch me on a model or a system or an office or an idea. You asked me questions about where I was, how I felt where I was, and where I was headed, and my answers were, for lack of a better term, immature, right? I was just kind of saying almost what I thought you wanted to hear at that point. To me, being in a room with you, speaking to you, I'd heard about you through the grapevine. I was trying to give the right answer. And again, you being you just shut me up and were like, hey, stop saying what you think I want to hear and start speaking to me. You remember all this. Like we were in your office for an hour and a half, 2 hours almost in the middle of the day. And, but then you said, where do you want to go? And I said, I consider myself someone who can help develop business, right? I feel like I have this knack for finding the gaps and filling them for others and helping them build a strong foundation and then setting them on their way, right? People ask me all the time, like, why do you coach instead of running a team, right? It's because I want to create and I want you to move on, right? For me, it's not keep you here, keep you attached to me and relying on me. I want you to be running your own team in 3 years and me looking on with pride from a distance being like, I remember when you were doing your first handful of transactions. And I think that's the energy I got from you.
Correct.
I told you what I wanted and you didn't just give it to me. You kind of told me how to get there. And if you remember, we used to coach
Yep.
back to back. I can't repeat some of the things you said to me on this podcast because I don't think there's enough bleeps on the board. But, you'd coach me back to back early in the morning in front of random people, right? Like people would be in your office and we'd have a coaching meeting and you'd be like, hold on one second. And you'd turn 2 chairs back to back. You'd give me a scenario. You'd ask me to coach you to it.
Yep.
I would do so poorly and you'd call me out. And, that helped me sharpen my skills as a coach. And then one thing led to another, and 2 years after, you gave me a shot at coaching the first day of the lockdown of the pandemic.
That's right. Now take it.
Yeah, you called me in the morning and said, "Hey, listen, here's your shot, man. Hop on Zoom. You're gonna be a coach." And I was like, "What's going on? Like the world just shut down." But it didn't matter how it came. I was excited, and it started a whole new journey for me. One I'm still learning and growing from today.
What did you? I'm curious because you've been to my coaching sessions too, where I have with the coaches, and it's up and down with coaches coming and not coming and going all over. And I respect that because you guys are running a business. It's not, it's funny. People come into that world and they want to hear from me. I guess now Lauren, and what do I do to make this successful? And my answer is always, it's your business. Run it. I trust you. I'm not going to micromanage you. You come to me if you need help. I don't want you to run it the way I want to run it. I want you to run it the way you want. At least that's what I'm hoping I'm giving out.
Yep.
And you have run it that way. And I'm proud of you for that because you have taken it from basically nothing because it was developed the first day of the pandemic to where is it now? So I'd rather you say the numbers than me.
Oh, all right. So this year we are at 26 agents.
Yep.
We were up to 35. We made some changes. We did 28 transactions, $17.5 million in volume.
And this is all new agents?
All new agents. I had two people who had previously done transactions that joined my program. But the numbers that I'm doing here are all green agents, new to the business, licensed in 2024, many of them. That's actually. Awesome. And you know how the program is, like any group of people, it's, the 5 or 6 agents that are regularly showing up. We have agents in the program. I'm not here to name drop, but, we had an agent, she'd never had a listing before and then got 3 in 83 days. 3 in 83 days? Yeah, 3 listings in 83 days. One of them is actually closing in a couple of weeks. She already had one closing and another one, should be going to contract soon. And this is an agent that she's never done a buyer transaction in her career yet because she got licensed late 2023. Built it through calling daily. She has over 2,500 calls logged for 2024. She has over 30 appointments. And the one thing about this agent is that she's at every session. She's at every session. She is prepared. She's actually on Zoom right now making lead gen calls. A bunch of them are, right? Yep. But, I've been running that where I turn on Zoom at 7:45 in the morning. You have phone numbers to call, either from the previous days or new numbers, and you just get to it, and lo and behold, the agents that show up regularly seem to have the most appointments.
So what's your, I don't want to say pet peeve, what's your biggest must-do in your group? Like, what is it that you have, like with me, remember, if you're coaching with me or you're working on my team, okay, you must be lead genning from X amount of time to X amount of time. You need to be out there creating more relationships. What are you telling your people the most important thing in your world is to be successful?
The most important thing is to constantly work on your self-discipline.
Okay.
To me, that's what I coach to. Mindset and self-discipline, right? I like to make this analogy where you're on a journey, right? You're going on a trip. Let's just say you're going away for the holidays. You're going to pack a suitcase, right? You're going to get to your destination. You're going to open that suitcase. You're going to know essentially what's in that case because you put it there. You chose to travel with it, right? Now, if you're not going to open it and be like, why is my vacuum cleaner in here? That would be insane, right? Because you didn't pack it, right? True. It's a choice. What we carry with us wherever we go is a choice, right?
Love it. Yep.
And that's just something that speaks to me, and that's what I coach to. So I say before you ever get into the activities, make sure you have the discipline to do this at a high level, right? It's not something that is just going to show up one day because you want it to. It's work. You're sharpening your skills every day because your destination is determined by you, and it's your goal, right? I like to say this to my coaching program also, is that if you're going to do something great, and you know this because you know a lot of people, let's just leave it at that, right? it should be almost an unhealthy obsession with hitting that, right? And I know that sometimes people don't like to say that, but you should be. If you see somebody, right, that goes on to be one of the best actors of all time, Michael Jordan, right? We look at him and we go, holy crap, greatest of all time. He's so amazing. But if you saw him at 6 years old taking 1,000 shots in the middle of the night, you'd be like, that guy's insane, right? So you need this unhealthy obsession, almost borderline insanity towards your goal if you're going to get there.
So do you think you can learn that, or do you think you're just born with that?
I think some people are born with it. There's this hunger and drive inside of them from a very young age, and you see these kids always putting their best foot forward. But again, from someone like me, lazy, lackadaisical, I'm like, you know me, right? Like I float around, whatever it may be. I had to train myself. To get slightly better every day and hold myself accountable because nobody else was, right? There was nobody there kind of holding me accountable. Go ahead.
I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because I'm sure you're teaching that in your program. How many of your people actually know they're running a business, or they feel they're working for you? Let's start there.
Okay. Everyone knows they're running a business because that's my first class, right?
So you're running a business.
Yeah. So my first one-on-one, my discovery call with the new client starts off with, why are you here? What are you doing here? What is the end game for you? And at some point I always say, you're here to run your own business. I tell them point blank. There's no like figuring it out. I'm going to tell you that you are starting a business. Just like if you were starting a cafe or you were opening a Subway, a clothing store, whatever. I don't care what the business is. You're starting a business. Now that business needs to be open. It needs to have inventory. It needs to be profitable relatively quickly, right? You're not here to make me money. You're not here to make rich money. You're not here to, whatever, create a group of friends. You're here to run a business. And that requires more structure than you've probably ever had in your entire life for anything. You could be valedictorian of your university with a 4.0 GPA and had a structure for your studying modules. Doesn't matter. Your independent business ownership requires even more than that. And I think that a lot of people get into real estate not realizing that. They get their license and they go, I'm going to go work for this brokerage. I'm going to sell a couple $1 million homes. And they never get to this point of continuous success, continuous inventory to sell in their business.
So interesting. So how do you keep them on track knowing that it's a business, not a job, right? Because I feel that people come into this industry sometimes, not everybody, just some of them, right? Where, all right, the reason I'm picking real estate is because I can make my own hours. No, you can't.
Yeah, you absolutely cannot.
You can't. You have to put a schedule in place. And, the person that's not working with a calendar is probably not going to be successful to the point where they could be successful, right?
Yeah,
does that make sense? Where they can really be highly successful and make as much as they can in that world. How do you ingrain that in accountability to make sure they constantly know? Because I think that's the biggest key to this, right? Especially with new agents is, one, you can do this, right? Because everybody comes in, like you said, I'm going to make $1 million because I just got my real estate license. And then they come in and they say, okay, wow, being successful is having 3 in contract in 84 days, making 2,500, calls. There's a lot of work that goes into 3.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
How do you keep them accountable and realizing that this is the goal, this is the number? Because when you add those 3 up, right, so let's say it's 3 a quarter, that means that's 12 a year.
Yeah.
Right? And you hear all of these big shots, right? They sit there, and God bless them because I know it's true. And I did 300 transactions. I did 400 transactions. I did 1,000 transactions. And that's what everybody thinks our world is like. And every single agent does that.
Yeah.
12 is a lot of transactions.
Absolutely.
It's 1 a month.
It is.
Right? So how do you keep them accountable to that?
So this is actually funny because we had a coaches meeting last week. I could not be in attendance, but being a good coach, I said, hey, Lauren, call me. I'll listen in on the speakerphone. I'll take some notes. I'll send them to you. I am not pouring into those who are not showing up, right?
Okay, makes sense.
So right off the bat, if I have to do this like super diligent check-in on you every day type of thing, then you don't want to be here. And I'm looking for my starters, right? I'm a coach. If you're not at practice, you're not fielding ground balls before anyone else gets there, you're not starting at shortstop. You're just not showing me, you're just not getting that opportunity because you haven't earned it, number one. But number two, as coaches, we have egos that make us believe that we can turn anybody into a superstar. So a lot of times we chase those that don't want to show up, and we let them negatively affect our mindset. Right? You have a group of 30 people and 8 are showing up. Instead of giving those 8 people the best possible accountability and coaching you can because they want to be there, you're focusing on the 22 that aren't showing up, and you're holding their failure as your own. So that's something I learned through the years of coaching. I no longer do that.
What do you think that changed? Did you just think that changed with like the participation trophy with everybody? So when I was playing with different age, even like in Little League, you didn't make the team. You didn't make the team. Yeah, and there was no other team. You sat there and played, against the wall.
Exactly, yeah.
Especially baseball, hockey, whatever it was. And, in my world, you didn't get told good job. It was expected of you.
Yeah.
And now everybody needs to hear that good job, good job, and good job. In your world, do you like when you're coaching them think it was better? And I'm not trying to compare them. I'm just trying to figure it out. Was our way of being coached better than the way it is today by having to tell somebody good job every day, giving them that participation trophy because you tried, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, it feels like everybody just feels that they can do everybody else's job, and nobody realizes you can't be Derek Jeter, you can't be Mariano Rivera, you can't be Mark Messier, but everybody thinks they are.
Yeah, everyone thinks they are.
And everybody thinks they can coach them too, and you can't.
That's what it is. I think that. So I think that your let's call it old school, not too old, but old school way is better, right? Because again, I do credit you with the great impact in my career. Where another quick story where it was kind of like a moment of aha for me. I don't know if you probably remember this too. Me and you were walking across from the Greater Nassau office to Chick-fil-A for lunch. Yeah, and we're walking, and I'm going through a slump. Right? I'm going through a real slump. I haven't set an appointment in a month. Yeah, and I haven't really. My business is just not where it needs to be. Year over year numbers are looking abysmal, and we're walking, and as we're walking, you asked me a few questions like, hey, you actually asked me for my script. What are you saying on the phone? And I script you from the parking lot to the entrance of the mall. And you turn around and you say, is this your first day in real estate?
I remember that.
And I said, no. I don't take criticism well. You know this about me, right? I can dish it out. I can't take it. That's just part of my personality.
A lot of people like
that. But, and you said, is this your first day in real estate? Like, you sound robotic almost, like what are you reading a script, like you know what to say. And then you asked me a question which went on my post-it. You talk about post-its that you may write down and stick them under your desk.
That's right.
And you said, Mo, you have to explore the idea that you may have just gotten lucky for the beginning stages of your business and you actually don't have very many sales skills. And you said that and you walked into a store and then bought yourself a $600 pair of $600 pair of loafers. You remember those, right? The moleskin strap, the monk strap shoes. And you just said it in passing. And again, you knew me already at this point. We had enough conversations. But I think in that moment you knew, and I didn't know you knew that you were doing this, but you were implanting, almost a motivation in my mind to prove you wrong, right? To prove you wrong that there's no way it was luck, right? I earned my spot. But I remember just after we ate lunch and I went back to the office, my whole energy and my whole approach changed. I got on the phone. I was no longer sitting for my calls. I stood up like I do, right? Pulling the energy up. And I was speaking very differently, right? I was calling expireds. I said, your home is expired. You know it. I know it. You don't want the calls. You're frustrated. I need to know what happened and how we can
fix it.
Yeah, how we can fix it. And we're not doing it over the phone. I'm available Thursday at this time or Friday anytime. You tell me, I'll be there. Let's have a 15-minute conversation. You don't want to sign anything. I won't bring anything for you to sign. Let's do it. I set like 7 appointments the next 3 days.
That's awesome.
Right?
And I actually remember that.
Yeah, and you remember this whole ordeal. And I told you afterwards.
I remember that.
I was like, it wasn't luck, Rich.
I remember that. Yeah.
You were passing by the hallway and, but to me, I didn't need you to almost hit
coddle
me. Coddle me. You needed to hit me with some real talk. Like, hey, man, I'm your buddy, but I'm also like a leader in your life. And I'm telling you that I no longer think you may be a fit soldier for my army, almost like that. You know what I mean? Like, go to the back. Like, you can't be in the front line anymore. And that knocked me back to the point where I had to now not just to you, to myself, prove that I deserve to be on the front line. And it changed my whole way of carrying myself. Now, when I have that experience to go off of, I'm not kitty gloves or coddling or, hugging out some of these, self-doubt moments. I'm hitting them being like, listen, you're either meant to do this or you're not. You have to figure it out for yourself. Go home, do some reflection, right? In my coaching program, I tell everybody, I'm going to tell you how to set your goals. We're going to set them together. We're going to review them together. But if you're going to set them with no reflection over them, don't set them at all.
Don't say that.
Don't set them at all, because you're just doing the task for the sake of doing the task, and I'm not your teacher, and I'm not grading you.
That's right.
So either do it for yourself or don't do it, because you're not going to hit it.
If you polled your people today, which one would you say they would rather? Would they want that real conversation, or they don't want the real conversation? And then what do you prefer? Because again, you either love me or hate me, right? You know that, right? Because I could say some horrendous shit, and it's meant to love, because again, I don't want you wasting your time, and I think that's one of the reasons I have the respect, because I'm going to tell you how I feel, and if you don't like it, too bad. This is the way it is. Are you able to do that with everybody in your world, or?
So, I was joking around with you, right? I playfully refer to myself as the best coach in the core, and that's not a statement. That's a challenge. I want somebody to want to,
and I want you to
do more transactions than me, close more volume than me. Let's compete a little bit. But I think in my growth as a coach, what I realized is that the way I study coaching and the way I study the human mind and the psychology of a diligent person, right, a disciplined person, it doesn't matter what you respond well to. It doesn't matter what you want. It's more what you need to hear and how it needs to be said to you. It's not, we ran a program where I had two coaches. You remember this. We had two coaches, and I was the rough around the edges type coach, bad cop, right? And we had another coach who was a little bit more
Chris,
good cop. Yeah, Chris. A warmer, easier to approach coach who at times would do more of the, they need to hear this right now.
Like 70-something people in the program.
Yeah, we had 78 people in the program at the time. I like to call it my, churning out warm bodies program, right? Hoping for things to fall in place. I do want to make one more point about that before we wrap up. But when we had that, I saw people who needed tough conversations move over towards somebody who wasn't going to give it to them, somebody who wasn't going to be real with them, right? Because it was an option. Because the softer approach was an option, the people who needed real talk were going the soft route to avoid that hard discipline, hard accountability that was waiting on the other side of the door where I was sitting. And that's when I said, I'm not going to give them this option, right? I'm not going to say, hey, this or this. I'm going to say, as your coach, as somebody who sat with you one-on-one and learned about you and who you are as a person. Again, you can't do this unless you invest a little bit of time in getting to know the individual. But once I know you, I know what makes you go, and I know what makes you stop, and I know even, as a good coach, I dig deep into people's traumas, right? You have to. Once I know that about you, you have to trust that I am going to only do what's in your best interest and say in that moment what you absolutely need to hear, even if you don't want to.
That's right.
And one thing I end a lot of my coaching sessions with is that as your coach, you don't need to like me. You don't need to want to grab a drink with me after class or hang out with me or invite me to your birthday party. As long as I get you to where you need to go, I've done my job as your coach.
Don't need to like me, but you're going to respect me.
That's it. Respect what I'm doing is for your best.
Right. It's always going to be for your best. And I believe you have that in your program.
Absolutely.
And so, what do you see your 2025? We're sitting here next December 19th, right? 2025. What do we accomplish in 25? How many agents are going to be in your program?
Yeah. So
how many are you looking to do? You're looking to decrease, increase? What are you
so luckily for us, I've done a 135 for my program.
Yep.
I know what I want to do in company dollar, which again doesn't outside of Keller Williams, whatever. But we're going to do 65 transactions at a minimum in the program. I am going to have 55 agents, 20 of which would be considered PC Elite. So this is what I wanted to touch on. And again, if we come back, we can dig deeper. But I have a 2-tiered program.
Yep.
I have a general coaching program, and I have what I call the performance coaching elite, right? And right now it's 12 agents. Now, there's certain standards you have to meet to get elite. We don't need to get into that. But you're held to such a high accountability in elite that it's weekly check-ins over the phone, one-on-ones for an hour every other week. We dive into your business and you set what you're going to do, and then I make sure you follow through with it. It's not so much as hand-holding because these people have been picked because they didn't need that, right? But it's also something that the general coaching kind of wants to aspire to. So my goal is to grow that 2x that, get that to 25 elite, right? And we'll talk off camera about how many of those are about to be cappers, right? We have a whole bunch of people who are going to be first-time cappers in the next 4 months if the deals go through. So, 175,000 in company dollar, 65 transactions, 50 agents, 25 of them or 23 of them at least in elite, and growth in the program from, I have this mindset, and I think other coaches should adopt this mindset, that we should grow our programs organically. When you look out into the world of real estate, you see agents that you're like, I want a chance to coach that person, right? You have prospects that just give me a shot, right? We should go out there and we should lead gen for our coaching programs,
right.
Not just wait, right? Keller Williams does a great job. Right now we have, Basendra at TL over at Greater Nassau. He's doing an amazing job. Getting people in, putting them in front of me to have a conversation. And while that's all well and good, I should have my own target list of people I want to coach. And I should be adamant about going out there like I would with an expired or a FISBO or a Circle Prospect seller that I came across back when I was selling more heavily. I should go out there.
I was having a similar conversation with Kristen last night.
Okay. Yeah.
Talking about similar, to this. The one thing, that I believe you guys, all of you, I'm not just going to say names, but I think all of you guys have this in common, and I really do believe this. All your numbers are real.
Yeah.
They're not bullshit. And I'm not accusing of any other company or any other leaders of, forging numbers and promising this and doing that. That's one of the things I value with you guys, and I respect that, and I hope in 25, and I know it will happen, that you continue to do that. There's no reason to lie about the numbers. Let's be real about them.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you guys to do that. Hey, this is the number I'm going to hit. This is where it is. And you'll have other people saying, oh, that's ridiculous. You can do this. And then those people that they're saying to just get lied to. And it's impossible. Real estate is something that you have to gradually get into, move, and keep going. And then eventually you're at that level where you want to be. And it depends on what your level is. And so I applaud you for that. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
You guys are amazing. I'm going to hold you accountable to your numbers, obviously.
That's why I said them.
Yeah, exactly. I do expect to see you more in the coaching meetings because you're valuable to it, because your input and like what we're talking about today. I think it's important to discuss this in the meetings. Yesterday we had an amazing meeting, I thought, with the ALC.
Okay.
And explaining how 2025 is going to be with them. I think 2024 was a pause. And I think we have to get back to work in 2025. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just think we've been hit so hard in 23, 24. But we could have predicted this, and if you were smart enough to do that, you did, and you were prepared, and it was okay. You got through it. Now that we're through it, I can see much greater things. Hopefully your numbers are even higher than what you say, even though you got some great numbers. I think if we can get them higher, and that's not me saying that, that's for you, because I know that's what you're looking to do. I really, truly do look forward to seeing what you and all the other coaches in the core do, because it's pretty cool what you guys do, and I want to thank you for it. It's amazing. I appreciate everything that you do for us. I appreciate what you do for all of them. I definitely appreciate what you do for you and your family. Love you. Can't wait to have you back. Have a nice holiday. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Nice.